This is the Garden of English. I'm Tim Freitas. It's close to exam time. I want to offer you a sense of comfort and maybe pull back the veil a little bit so you can see what the wizard actually looks like. And I brought a friend in to talk about that. So let's talk about making it a little bit more comfortable when you take your exam. Check it out. Okay, we are on almost the eve of test day, and I have the one and only Kristy Seidel from the AP Lang Facebook page, and let me tell you, she's pretty awesome. We'll let her talk about herself in just a minute, to give us some of the best advice that we can have before test day that will bring us a sense of comfort, which is always nice in times like this. But before we do, I want to just give a huge shout out to the Garden of English Patreon supporters. You'll see their names over this way, I'm pretty sure, in the middle of our screen, right? Super grateful for them. They allow me to bring people like Christy on here and pay her millions of dollars, so thank you so much for that. By the way, if you're interested in supporting the Garden of English in that way with Patreon support, for just a little bit, we do offer some major benefits. You can check it out in the video up in the corner to see what those benefits are. But now that we've expressed our deep gratitude for those individuals, right? Christy, why don't you tell us about you and tell us why we're here, and let's have a conversation to kind of help alleviate some of the stress.
All right, thank you. Well, this is the last thing I'm going to be doing because I'm retiring after this with the money that you just dropped into my account, right?
There we go, right?
So retirement, here I come. So hi, everybody. So yeah, I'm a teacher down here in sunny South Florida, so pretty far away from you, Tim. Yes. I don't know what your weather's like up there right now, but we're already summering down here.
We're at like 62 degrees right now, but it is nice out, and that's kind of great.
It's pretty hot here. We're poolside already. But so sunny South Florida, here we are. I have been teaching for 17 years, and a lot of those years have been spent in AP, both Lit and Lang, and many years recently as a reader working for College Board, and this year I will be working as an exam leader on that exam. So I want to relax all of you right now, right?
Me too, right? As a teacher, I hope as well.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, right. we get stressed out about this too. You know, our students mean a lot to us, and notice I said our students. I didn't say our students' scores. Our students mean a lot. The stress that they're feeling, the reliance that they have on those scores in order to achieve certain goals they have in their lives. Those things matter to us too. So it's a stressful time, and we need to de-stress.
I agree. So let's talk about it. How do we do that, right? So let's try to, as we have our conversation, let's try to address some things that there might be some misconceptions I think that are out there that increase our stress. So why don't we try to dissect some of those? So what do you have for us?
So the first thing I think, when I think about the stress that comes from the exam, I think of the score, right? Yeah. So you and I are both AP readers and have been for a while. And so I want to pull back the curtain just a little bit, and I want to give some insight into that reading, that scoring process, And so the first thing that I want to remind all of you students of is that the readers, those who are scoring your exams, those who are going to be putting that number, right, and assigning that number to you, it's me, right? It's
and
you,
me.
Tim.
And
right?
And also, in being in reading leadership positions, we also read behind other readers, right? And so, like, they're people like us. Yes. And we're calibrating, and we're trying to do that. Absolutely.
Yes. So, some of you might have taken part recently in another training, a little review session that we did through Marco Learning with a number of panelists, and all of those panelists are AP readers. So, you notice we were having some conversation, we were having some fun talking about the essays and stuff. That's what we do at the reading. We lovingly call the AP reading nerd camp, right? It's summer nerd camp. We see one another once a year, and we hope that's going to be the case next year.
Oh my gosh, I hope so.
We love it. We love what we do. We are totally not coming into this thing, looking to penalize students. Right. In fact, one of the first things, Tim, that we are told at the AP reading by leadership is what? What is the one thing that's reiterated all week long?
Reward kids for what they do well. That's what we are told all the time. And that's when I'm a table leader, I tell that to the people that are reading underneath me. Let's go look for what they do really, really well. And just before we move into that kind of point, though, I want to also point out, we have faces and we're kind. And kids have been relying on us for support all year. And readers are not phantoms. And I think that's a really like kind of comforting thing to know. It's like, wait a second, so readers are like, you know, Christy, who's actually kind, and that Freitas jerk who is at least enigmatic, right?
And we're not computers.
Right. And so we're not robo readers. We actually are human beings that process all of what's going on. And I hope that helps alleviate some stress.
Yes.
But anyway, back to this idea of, you know, rewarding students for what they do well. Tell us about that.
So, you know, as I'm reading, and as every reader is reading, we have that scoring guide that hopefully all of you have, you know, you know it, you've seen it, you've looked at it, it's on College Board's website, and maybe your teachers have used it. We have that guide, it's sitting right in front of us. And if we're curious as to where something scores, we're going back to that guide.
Right.
We are using the language from that guide to answer any question we need to answer about what is this score. So one of the first things to know about rewarding students for what they do well, and Tim, I think you would love to speak to this, is that we don't go in with a red pen counting all the mistakes.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, as an English teacher in my classroom, I will do that. Like I have no problem going to war on my students' paper. But on the day of, in the reading, I'm like, I can't wait to get this thesis. All right, is this thesis there? Super cool, right? Is it well articulated? Sometimes I might be like, it's not well articulated, but it's there, so I'm going to give it that point, right? Why? Because this is a draft. And, you know, it's not like I'm like, oh, here are our mistakes. And this is something that I really want to point out, because a lot of times, I mean, even when I work with teachers, they ask like, okay, so if a student were to do A, B, C, or D, should I tell them to, you know, E, F, or G, right? And I'm like, whoa. Relax. Like, I just want to see if the student has A in the paper, and then I can work on awarding points for that. It's not like I'm like, there's a formulaic way of doing this, and then I can award points that way. Like, it's okay. I just want to see what you have, and then we'll look at it in relationship to the guide, and I will give you every point that I can that the guide will allow me to offer you. It's in my best interest to give you a higher score. Well, not a higher score than you should earn, but it's in my best interest to accurately score you and your paper with integrity to the guide without counting things against you. So I always say, what do you have, not what don't you have?
Exactly. The guide does not lend itself to points being taken off.
Right.
The guide does not. It just flat out doesn't. It lends itself to which box does it fall in? Which of these descriptors best describes this this paper? And, you know, one of the things that, you know, we've moved to this analytic rubric that's got the row A, the row B, and the row C. But the reality is we're still in many ways reading the essay in a holistic way.
Yeah.
And another thing that's really important to know is that we do take into account that this is a draft. These are not process papers. So I agree with you. In my classroom, I may give something back to a student 4 times and say, the thesis is still not tightened up enough. Right. But that's a process. We don't expect that when you're sitting for 2 hours and producing 3 essays.
I know.
We know it's a draft. You know, we do. We know it's a draft, and we're looking at it, especially as you brought up in row earlier when we were talking, row B is really holistic. Where does your evidence and your commentary fall? So I think we'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, so we're not counting mistakes. We're not looking. If you misspelled some words, can you still score high? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you left some words out, can you? Yes.
Yep. Sometimes there are a couple sentences where I'm like, I don't know what that means, but the rest of the paper rocks. We're good here, you know?
That's exactly right.
The point is that it's definitely a draft. We think of it in that manner, and because of that, we have to score it in that way. So we do read supportively, and I want everybody to hear that. Like, we're not trying to give you points that you don't deserve, but we're not. I often get asked questions, am I going to lose points if I don't A, B, C, or D? And the answer is no, because you don't lose points for anything. You get points for doing things that are just characteristics of good writing. Cool.
So alternatively, it's more like, instead of do I lose points if I don't do, instead it's are you able to move up? Because you know, it's have you reached that next.
Here's what you should do to gain points, not what you shouldn't do to lose points. That's
correct.
Right.
I love it.
You know?
I love it.
So super cool, right? So let's actually talk about that, though. This idea of losing points. Like, what are the kind of rules, I guess, that I have to follow in order to do well?
Okay. So first of all, there are very few rules.
That's it.
So the fact is, in my classroom, I may have rules. Yeah. Your teachers may have rules. I bet you can think right now of a pet peeve that is your teacher's top pet peeve, right? Your teacher hates a closed thesis statement, right?
Sure.
Your teacher hates when you say the author uses A, B, and C.
My kids know that if they're going to put the word uses in a rhetorical analysis, I deserve to figuratively punch them, right?
Right.
But I have also given plenty of extremely high scores to papers that have the word uses on them or in them on exam day. Absolutely.
But then they go on, here's the trick. So there may not be a rule that says you can or can't use a personal pronoun I, you can or cannot use a contraction, you cannot use whatever. But the reality is on exam day, if that student wrote that thesis statement that you hate, you still have to say, but is it a thesis?
Right. Check.
Begrudgingly, check, right? And then beyond that, they may have gone on, even though they used that hated word uses, but they might have gone on to just rock out talking about those strategies.
You bet.
And then you're like, okay, well, in the real world, if this is a process paper, I'm telling that kid to pick a better verb.
Yeah.
But on the draft, they went on to show me that they absolutely know how to nail talking about those strategies.
Right.
So that's why there are very few rules. You cannot really say very often on this exam that you absolutely cannot use this, cannot use that, cannot write this way.
Yeah. It's all based on what you're trying to communicate. You know, like I have students ask me all the time, can I use first and second person pronouns? And I'm like, well, I like in my classroom, I also tell kids don't say you, because a lot of times it shows an inability to understand who your audience actually is. But if they contextualize who the audience is and then say you, it makes perfect sense, right? So it's not a one size fit all, and I think that sometimes it's easy to find comfort in the one size fit all. But I think that we should find a little more comfort in the idea that with the few rules that we know, which I'll ask you to kind of dictate for us in just a minute, with the few rules that we do know, how do we write within that? So tell us about those rules that we do know, because there are way more that that's what we want to kind of keep our writing in the parameters of. So what do we know that we have to do for rules?
So the rules are, first and foremost, you got to have a thesis.
Yeah.
It may not be our preferred one, right?
Yep.
So it may be a thesis that, like you just said, you know, if it were in your classroom, you would say, oh, come on, kiddo, I told you not to use that verb. But there has to be one.
Yeah.
Period.
As long as it's responding to the prompt, you're going to get your thesis point. So have a thesis. Absolutely.
So, and guess what? It doesn't have to be the last sentence of the introduction.
Right.
It doesn't have to
Actually, in my classroom for timed writings, my students their introductory paragraph is a single sentence. There's no doubt about it. I actually have a really good friend named Mike Van Walde, who's a teacher in Connecticut, who just posted today in an online forum. He's like, why not teach your kids to write inductively? Almost all of the essays that they read throughout the year are inductive. It's sophisticated. Why not have them do that? It's just another option. And I'm not telling anybody that they should do it that way. I'm just saying, like, that's one of the things that he brings up, because as long as the thesis is in the paper somewhere, you're going to get your credit for it.
Some of my students who struggle the most on time, and they say, how can you offer me advice for timing? I say, if you're going to cut something because of time, cut something out of introduction and conclusion. Keep it bare bones.
Yeah.
Keep it very bare bones. Spend your time where most of your points are coming from. 4 of your 6 points are coming from row B. Yep. So that would be my next rule, would be no matter what, you've got to establish that line of reasoning, that scary phrase that we were saying. What does that mean? All it means is that I need to be able to clearly get the point you're making.
Yeah.
Don't leave me going, okay, you have this idea in this one, but I don't understand where are you going with this? Don't leave me wondering that. Just as long as I can clearly see that you're arguing something or that you're analyzing something, give me that line of reasoning, because it's all over the scoring guide.
Right.
And then finally, sustained evidence and commentary. And I say sustained because you can't just drop a piece of evidence in one paragraph and move on. You got to have it throughout. And every time you have evidence, I need a connection to why you bothered giving me that example.
Right. And
that's it.
You know, I think that's the easiest way to put it. Why did you bother putting this example in your paper? I mean, I think that's the easiest way to address what commentary actually is. What is the point of this evidence being placed right here? So that makes it seem like pretty easy, because the rules are I need to have a thesis, I need to have evidence, and I need to have commentary. Hey, why is this evidence here? And the evidence needs to have a line of reasoning that relates to your argument. That's that right there. That says nothing about counter arguments. That says nothing about contextualization. That says nothing about any of those things. Right now, those things are probably going to potentially be built in at different times, but there's no rules about that. The rules are thesis, evidence, commentary, line of reasoning. Boom. There you go.
That's it.
All right.
How you get there gets to be up to you. And that, I think, is my final point. And then whatever yours is, my final point is you can get to the end result in so many ways.
Yeah.
Please do not let anyone make you feel like your voice and your writing needs to be boxed in to some very specific way where you're not allowed to use this word or you're not allowed to organize it this way. My organizational strategies, even in my own writing, it changes depending on what I'm being asked to do. I organize it different ways. So you may not know for sure what your ultimate essay is going to be organized like until you see the prompt on test day. Right. My ultimate advice is take a breath and talk to me. Imagine my face. Imagine Tim's faces. I know you
not
probably
mine.
Don't
That's like a nightmare. I take that back.
I know you don't want to really imagine us, but imagine us on test day, knowing that it's going to be us or someone very, very much like us.
Yeah.
You know, all of these people, thousands of people we consider friends that we see every summer. Imagine our faces. Talk to us on that paper. Yeah. Just take a breath and talk to me. Stop worrying about, well, what if I put this in the wrong spot on my page?
Yeah.
It's okay. Just talk to me.
It is. It's quite all right. And also, you know, maybe some other advice with that, right, is, you know, think about us in that way and also get some sleep the night before the exam day. Cram until 9 p.m. and then go get some sleep. Go get some sleep. One last thing that I just want to say here real quick about this kind of like, you know, be you, right? If you're going to be you and you're going to talk to me, right, one of the things that you can't be is a number, right? And that's why in my last AP Daily live video that I did with the College Board last week, my final message was, look I know that you all want to do well on your exam, and I hope you all do well on your exam, but there are so many elements of context that this single test day cannot account for. What's going on at home? What's going on in your life? What's going on in even our country or the world right now with pandemics and whatnot? Like, folks, you are more than a number. And if you took this course and you can write better, if you can empathize better, if you're more respectful, if you can be a better civilian in a greater country, then we've had success here, right? And so think about it that way. Don't define yourself as a number because that's rather external. Like, really look at who you are and let us see who you are on this day. So that's honestly, Christy, I appreciate you reaching out to do this video with me and being willing to do so, because I really hope that it provides a sense of comfort for many, many students here, right? I would like to thank you so much for your time. By the way, is there anywhere that I can reach you, like on social media or anything, if I have tons of questions or if I want to direct people towards you because I don't want to deal with the questions? Any Twitter or Teacher Pay Teachers or anything like that?
So obviously, if there are teachers watching this, we have the AP Lang Facebook group for teachers, but also we have teachingrhetoric.com.
You got it.
And so you could go there and you could contact me that way. As well.
Awesome. So just so you know, I will have put teachingrhetoric.com on the screen as you actually said that, but not right now. Anyway, the Garden of English is actually super available online as well. We are available on Facebook. We are available on Instagram, so feel free to shoot us a like over there. And we also have the gardenofenglish.com where we also sell merch and things like that. If this video is helpful, right, just press like and subscribe. It's the easiest way that you can actually help support the Garden of English. And Christy, I appreciate all of your support throughout the years. I wouldn't actually be doing this if it wasn't for your encouragement a lot of the times through through the AP Lang Facebook page over the years as well. So I'm super grateful.
You know what, students, this is a lesson to you as well. Networking is so important in life. It just is. You don't want to be, no man is an island, right? Lean in on people.
Truth be told, I would consider you a friend, and we have never once actually met each other in person besides when I gave you books 4 years ago.
They say, I say, right?
That's right. And I had no idea who you even were, and you had no idea who I was. You were just like, I need books, and I gave you books. And now all of a sudden it's like, I got your number in my phone. Like, what's up with that? You know? So anyway, thank you so much, and you have a great day.
You too.